Welcome to A Moment of Wisdom. I'm Wisdom Martin. The theme of this episode is game changers. A game changer is not somebody who got lucky. It is somebody who looked at the room that they were not invited into and decided to go build a different room. Over this half hour, you're going to meet three men who did exactly that in three completely different arenas. A director who grew up watching a cousin become a legend and built something different on purpose. A physician who writes a health book and a detective novel every single year. And an actor who will give you 4 words that kept him coming back to work. We start in the director's chair. Malcolm D. Lee has a long run of features behind him. The Best Man, Barbershop, Girls Trip, Space Jam, comedies, ensembles, franchises. I wanted to know how one man carries all of it. You've done all these different movies.
Yeah.
Is it hard when you have success to keep upping the ante, to keep being successful? Is there something in there that's like, okay, this one is going to be a real hit too because I've done this, or?
You know, I don't really think about trying to make a hit.
Okay.
I hope that I make movies for audiences for sure. Like, I'm not just making movies for myself in my small group of people. I like to entertain. That's the first and foremost. And if I feel like I can bring something to the table, then I want to do that. So it's not so much a pressure to make a hit, but more about trying to expand my storytelling ability and, exercising different muscles in that genre, across multiple genres.
Right. You're a Georgetown person.
Yes.
A Georgetown Hoya.
Yes, I am.
Hoya
Saxa.
Yeah. What made you decide to get into movies? How'd you get into movies?
From a very early age, I was exposed to filmmaking.
How early are we talking? How early?
Well, 12.
Oh, okay.
But even before that, I was a kid that, liked to act. I liked to draw. I liked to do a lot of things in the fine and performing arts. And when I was 12, I got to use video camera when they were not like, ubiquitous, and ever present. I got to, do an animation film back then. I got to make movies in high school. And then, I had the fortune of, seeing a great American filmmaker grow up, who was my cousin Spike, who lived in my parents' basement when he was in film school.
Really?
And I was in middle school at the time. And I saw he showed me that it was possible that someone black and someone in my family could do this. And it just kind of sparked my curiosity. And so I just started pursuing it. As soon as I got to Georgetown, and when I was 19, I knew I wanted to be a filmmaker. Because Spike always encouraged me to make black film, to write black film. And, it was something that was already inherent in me, and so I was able to build on it.
Right. The relationship between you and Spike then, that's got to be pretty cool. I mean, he's making his movies and now you're doing your thing, but at some point, you were on the come up.
Yeah.
And he was already on his way up.
Already established,
yeah. So what was that like for you to have that kind of guidance in your life? Or to have somebody that say, okay, he's doing it, I know him, he's helping me, without knowing that he's actually helping me?
Well, look, Spike gives opportunities, and he has a lot of cousins. So people might say, oh, you're his cousin, you made it like that. So no, he has a lot of cousins. I just happened to be one that actually took to it. And it was great to have him as a mentor and as somebody that I could just, watch and observe. I got to be his assistant on the film Clockers when I was in film school at NYU. And that was like a year of film school in and of itself. Just seeing how he moved the camera, how he framed shots and things like that. And so, we're very different people and we're different filmmakers. And so, it was great that I got to write the right script at the right time and The Best Man. And he shepherded it and said, okay, I will produce this and I think we can make a go of it. And then that was like my 6th screenplay I'd ever written.
Wow, okay. So you brought up The Best Man.
Yeah.
A whole series with all those brilliant characters.
Yeah.
Is it hard working with all those characters?
Listen.
Like big time characters?
Here's what I'll say. I love ensembles, right?
Okay.
I love ensemble movies. I love to have every actor and every character have their moment. And fortunately, I wrote the right script at the right time and did not expect it to spawn a sequel and a series and now a novel, but these are characters that speak to me and it speaks to a generation of black folks. It speaks to a generation of people in general who want to see themselves on screen. And working with, that many characters, I love that challenge of like everyone having a story to tell and everyone having their moment.
You seem so calm. Are you like that when you're putting the movie together or when you're out there in charge of the movie?
Most of the time.
Most of the time?
I try to keep a very calm demeanor because,
right.
you know, as a director, you have to set the tone,
Yes.
you know, for the rest of it. And so if you're like, in a frenzy, everybody else is gonna get crazy.
Right.
And I don't like, running that kind of a set.
Yes.
I want to have a good time while doing it. It's hard work. And we should have fun while we're doing it. It's a privilege to be able to do work like this.
Right. Now, some of the other movies that you've done.
Yeah.
The one with LeBron James, Space Jam. What was that experience like for you?
I loved it. You know, it was a situation where like I had never gotten to work on a movie that had that many visual effects and had and animation as well.
Right.
And I was a little intimidated by that, from afar. But once I got into it, I just said, okay, these are all just storytelling tools. And if you have the right crew, they can help you tell the story and help you, see your vision to fruition. So, I had replaced the director on that movie and came in the middle of when they were like, when the train was already moving.
So at that point, you can't start over?
No.
You just have to figure it out?
No, because, listen, the kid that was in the movie, like, he was growing by leaps and bounds, right? So, and then, LeBron had a day job, right? He had to get back to.
Right.
And Don Cheadle had a job to get back to also. So it was like, okay, let's go. And so I remember seeing a movie that, I don't remember the name of the movie, but it was a McCarthy-era movie about that De Niro was in. And I remember a scene where he had to take over a movie, right? And I was like, how would somebody even do that? But there it happened to me, and there I was. And fortunately, I had a lot of experience making movies and knew how to tell a story, and I knew how to work with actors. And so that was a great experience that, every director should have an opportunity to work with a kind of what you think at the time is an unlimited budget. It's never unlimited, but at least it was like, oh, well, can I have that? Oh, yeah, sure. More green screen, more visual effects, anything you want. I'm like, okay, great. And then you get to post, and they're like, we're over budget, so could we cut something? I'm like, okay, we'll fix it.
If you had some advice for some young person out there who's trying to be in the film industry, trying to follow in your footsteps, if you will, what would you say to them? Because I'm sure the road wasn't always smooth. They see that a lot of people see the finished product. They see Malcolm D. Lee and they see all the movies, but they don't see the struggles from Georgetown up until you made, the first big hit.
Yeah.
What would you say to them? How would you encourage them?
I think nowadays it's very interesting. There's particularly with this generation of filmmakers that there's a movie Obsession, there's a movie Backrooms that are really exploding. These guys came out of the YouTube generation. Really, like they created their own stuff and put it on YouTube and built an audience. I think that's what's the most important right now is to build an audience, right? Like put something together, however you're gonna do it, and just if you have the passion of storytelling and that will speak to your generation, do that, right? I mean, for me, it was like I was always had an idea about what I want to do as a filmmaker, and also kept an eye on what was coming. So even when I was writing The Best Man, I was writing it to make sure that it came out, or that I was finished with it by the time that Soul Food came out. And Soul Food I felt was going to, make an impact financially, which means, look, critical acclaim is nice, but the dollars speak, okay? Like if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. So if it made money, then they've been looking for the next Soul Food. So that's what I did. But I think this generation is a little bit different. People still want to go to the movies. It's very proven right now. And this generation has an opportunity right now, just like the filmmakers of the 70s and the filmmakers of the 90s, to have an impact and speak to their generation.
The ups and downs, though. Hollywood's a tough place.
It is.
Getting budgets for these movies is tough.
Right.
And in the past, I know it's somewhat hard to make black movies and to say this is going to sell.
Yeah.
How do you deal with those kind of challenges?
I think you have to right now, like some especially these guys that did the these kind of thriller horror movies, they found their own lane, and they built it themselves, and then the audience came to them. You can go to Hollywood for stuff, but if you can build an audience, Hollywood will come to you, right? And so I mean, you're always going to face challenges. This is a business of no. It's also a business of relationships. And so you're gonna hear no a lot, but then I would encourage people to make your own lane. Make their own lane, and if you can, and then then Hollywood will come calling. Or you write something or direct something that will get an audience, that will get people to pay attention. Otherwise, it's you're gonna keep hearing no. But that's okay. That builds tough skin, and it builds character.
Right. Okay. you're more than just a filmmaker because you wrote a book.
Yeah.
You wrote a book about the best man.
I wrote my first novel last year. It came out last July. It is the first in a trilogy. It's The Best Man, Unfinished Business. Continuation of The Best Man. It is not, a retelling of the movies. It is a continuation from where we left off in the Peacock series, The Best Man, Final Chapter. So The Best Man, Unfinished Business, follows Harper, Robin, and Jordan. And we really get to do a deep dive into their psyche. And a book reading experience is a lot more full than watching it on screen, right? It pours over you or whatever. You can use your imagination and it activates all 5 senses, not just sight and sound, but taste and feel and touch and all kinds of things. So, I really love that form of storytelling. And I wanted to give the folks more because they were asking for more of Best Man. And here's a way to consume more from them. Plus, we've got working on the second book right now, and the third one's coming.
How does Malcolm D. Lee have time for all this stuff?
Yeah, well, it's time management. Time management, and fortunately, I've got a great partner at home. My wife, Camille, and my 3 boys. They're all progressing the way they're supposed to, and I've got the great support, from them.
Okay, you need to make a movie about how to make boys progress, because I got questions.
I don't have answers. I'm trying, no brother.
Aren't we all doing the best
Yes,
we can? We're doing the best we can. I'll tell you some stories about what's going on in my household. Thank you, Malcolm. I appreciate you.
My man, thank you.
Always good to see you.
All right.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. Malcolm D. Lee. Build your own lane, and the industry will come find the address. Coming up, a physician who walked up to a stranger at a gala and talked his way into an entire second career. More of A Moment of Wisdom in just a moment. Welcome back to A Moment of Wisdom, Game Changers. Our next one is a physician and an author many times over. He keeps a running count. Once again, Dr. Ian Smith has amazed us with yet another book. He's prolific when it comes to this book writing. Beyond Midnight, an Ash Kane novel. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, man.
And it
Always.
seems like every time I see you, you've written another book. So what numbers are we on right now?
This is number 29. Every time I see you, you did another show. So I'm trying to keep track.
Right. We're just working. Here. So tell me about this book. This book.
So this series is my detective series that's based in Chicago. It's based on a PI named Ash Kane, who is a former CPD detective who leaves the force because he won't participate in the bad shooting of an unarmed teenager. And so he starts his own business, his PI business, and he's a golf addict. So he takes very few cases in and around Chicago, as long as they don't conflict with his golf schedule. But he's a fun guy. He is fearless. He's tough. He's very smart. He can quote Shakespeare 1 minute, Kendrick Lamar the next. The great thing about him, he is authentically himself. Whether he is in the affluent north side of Chicago or the gritty south side, Ash Kane always delivers himself, and he never lets you down.
Where'd you get the inspiration for this?
I always wanted to write a character that I'd never seen in books or on TV. I wanted a guy who was kind of a Renaissance guy. So the idea that he plays golf, he collects vintage cars, he quotes hip hop, and he quotes, people like Shakespeare. And he also is someone who, is tough. I mean, he's physically tough. In the gym, he's got a sidekick named Mechanic, who is very violent, very quiet, speaks with his gun and his fist. But I really wanted a guy who was just fun. Women like him, and guys like him. And you don't find a lot of characters in popular, kind of TV or books that both men and women are drawn to.
This is not the only thing that you write about, because you've written books about health and eating and dieting as well.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. So I've always been, the health guy. It's kind of the thing I was kind of out front on. I've always wanted to write fiction. I've always read thrillers and detective mysteries, but health has been my thing for a very long time. So now I have changed. I've morphed in my career. I write one health book a year and one novel a year, and so I kind of work the left and right side of my brain. My next health book is going to be something on menopause, to help women kind of eat their way through menopause, to alleviate symptoms, to lose weight without taking medication. So that's my next book.
Right. How do you come up with what you're going to write about? when it comes, especially when it comes to the health, because there's so much out there and people don't know. I mean, you got the internet and they read all these different things. How do you know what to write about?
Well, I try to be topical and current, or if I can, to get ahead of the curve. And so really it's kind of what's happening. Menopause, for example, is having a moment. Long overdue, by the way. It was something that's a stigma that no one wanted to talk about, but it's important. And women have needed open conversation, and so the moment is here. So I really look at kind of what's happening, what's on the horizon, but also, is there something new I can bring to the game? If it's just a regurgitation of what's already out there, I don't really get involved in it.
Right. What's next for you?
So,
I know you're gonna write another book.
Yeah. Well, I'm finishing number 6 of the Ash Kane series, the menopause book. I've actually written the TV pilot. It's been optioned to become a TV show. So I've written the pilot episode. And
Congratulations on that.
Thank you. So we're in the process of attaching, the way it works in Hollywood, you attach a director and or an actor to the project, then you try to sell it to a network.
Okay, all right. What is something about Dr. Ian Smith that people should know, that you don't think they know? We know you're a doctor, we know you write, we know you're healthy.
Sure.
What should they know about Dr. Ian Smith?
That I am a big aficionado of romance, dating, TV, reality TV, and I like to write love stories too.
Nice. Okay. All right. So that's out there on the horizon somewhere. All right.
Yeah.
So you've done a lot of TV though, but you've done lots of TV.
Yes. I mean, most of my career has been on television, and I'm still doing TV, but I'd like to do more kind of writing and producing, and that's kind of, I think, the next kind of pivot for me.
Right.
I'm still going to be on TV, but only when I want to talk about some of the projects that I'm doing.
Right. Last thing, when you became a doctor, how'd you go from doctor to being on TV?
Yeah, it's interesting. So when I was a medical student, I was at University of Chicago, I met an anchor at a gala I attended one night, and he was a local anchor for a station in Chicago. And I just walked up to him. I was a senior medical student, so I was about to be finished and start the drudgery of my internship. And I just said to him, I want to be your intern, because I really wanted to, always loved the news, and I wanted to see what was behind the making of the news. And so it was my last shot before I got into the real world of medicine. And so as a student, my second half of my last year as a student, I did an internship at a station in Chicago, and the rest is history.
The rest is history. The rest is history. All right, so you got the book, and people can get the book anywhere it's available?
The book just came out. It's available everywhere. I have a $1,000 contest I'm doing if you can solve 4 sets of clues, just like Ash Kane does. So if you go to my Instagram at Dr. Ian Smith, spell the doctor out, Ian Smith, or on Facebook, you can see the clues and maybe enter to win.
All right. Thank you, doctor. Always good to see you.
Thanks for
Always
having me,
good
man.
to see you.
Appreciate you.
All right. Dr. Ian Smith, 2 careers, 1 calendar, and none of it happens if he does not walk across that room. Next up, we open the vault for a conversation with Lisa Ann Walters. Before Abbott Elementary, before Hollywood, she was a Montgomery County kid with a mother who was a teacher. So you have so many things going on. You're an author, you're a content creator, obviously you're an actress. We'll touch on all of this. But first, I want to talk about Abbott Elementary. Let's start there. How on earth did you end up on that show?
Well, like most things, it starts with an audition. But I will say that previous to that, I read the script, and Quinta Brunson is an amazing young woman. I mean, she put together a really beautiful show, but the other thing that she did really well is she cast it. I don't know of a better ensemble cast working in television today, and that sounds like I'm self-aggrandizing. Take me out of it. Everybody else, I've never worked with such an incredible, incredibly talented group of people, but also the chemistry is just off the hook.
Right.
But she started with this script, which I read and said, it made me laugh, it made me cry. I knew this world. This is how I came up. I mean, listen, Montgomery County has the best schools still, top 10 school system in the country. And I was very lucky and got a great education. But our branch of it was not necessarily, we weren't Churchill, is what I'm trying to say.
You Montgomery Blair?
Yes, that's correct, sir. So you know, there was always a bit of a struggle. You know, it wasn't private school, but we never felt less than. My mother taught in these schools. She taught also downtown. She taught in DC. We never felt less than. we felt like we had the best teachers, most dedicated people. We had a great time. We had some resources. We made the best of them that we could. So, I felt like I knew this world to begin with. And then on top of it, this was a Sicilian chick in an all Black environment. And I'm like, there's nobody else I know all the people that go out for the same roles, the same, little secondary characters, supporting characters. I know all of them. There's nobody better at this job than me. I'm going to go get my job. And that was, I think, maybe the first time in my entire career where I went, that's mine, I'm getting it.
And you got it.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. And you feel like, listening to you talk, it sounds like your background, your family background in education, and everything that you went through here in Montgomery County and surrounding areas helped kind of prepare you for this role, even though back then you probably weren't even thinking like that.
100%. But that's the truth about not just actors, but about life. A lot of times you lose something, you lose a job, you lose a person that you love, and you're like, sobbing, why did that happen? Oh my God, my life will never be the same. Yes, your life will never be the same. And what's through the next door? And that's the thing that we don't think about when you lose or you don't get that thing that you really think you want. That's just one no on the way to a yes.
Wow.
And that yes happens and you're like, that's the thing I was waiting for. There it is.
Went through all of that to get to this one yes, right?
100%. That's
Yes.
right.
Lisa Ann Walters from The Vault, one no on the way to a yes. Still ahead, an actor who asked a hard question of a man whose whole job is keeping secrets and got an answer he has carried ever since.
He said, listen, he said, all the things that we hate, right? Corruption and racism and all of the things that are offensive to me and you, I can fight those outside of the CIA or within the CIA. I choose to do it from the inside. And I said, okay.
Stay with us. Welcome back. Wendell Pierce has built a career on characters who carry weight. In Jack Ryan Ghost War, he is James Greer, and Greer makes a phone call.
Well, Jack Ryan Ghost War is a continuation of the characters that we created or that we are portraying, that we have the honor to portray, because they're a part of a universe that was so well developed by Tom Clancy. I play James Greer, who at this point is the deputy director of the CIA. And I ask a favor of one of the best officers that we've known, Jack Ryan, who is now a civilian. And I just ask him to do a favor for me, to meet a friend, and it ignites this global espionage chase and ticking time bomb to save the country and save the world from a group that does not have our best interests at heart, to say it politely. And it is a thrill ride from the very minute that the film starts until the very end. 2 hours of action and espionage.
All right, 2 hours of action and espionage. Why do you think that people are so drawn to Jack Ryan and the whole genre and universe?
I think what it is action films are always exciting, visually and cinematically. At the same time, it questions, we get to question ourselves and decide what our values are. There's actually personal interaction between the characters that that makes the audience consider where their values are, where their true north is, and how their love of country and family, actually, because we are a family, and that's the thing that motivates so many people. And thereby, by the grace of God, go I. If I was in that particular situation, what would I do? I think that's the other thing that people are drawn to, especially with action films. It puts you in that character's shoes and say, where you have to consider the choices that character has to make, and which choice would I make, or what is the best choice. I think that's the thing that draws people to it. You know, that people see themselves reflected in the decisions that we have to make as espionage officers.
What is it about this series and the whole universe that draws you to it? Why do you keep coming back to it? I mean, I know it's work for you, but what is it that you like about it?
Well, outside of the actual stories itself, it's like a travel log. We've gone all over the world. I've worked in Morocco and Colombia and Montreal and Dubai and London. So I love to travel, and so that's the one thing I love it. When it comes to the story, the men and women that I've met doing the research, particularly African American intelligence officers, I challenged them when I first met them. I said, this is difficult work. There are some things in the past with the history of espionage and intelligence that maybe I don't agree with, and maybe you don't agree with. How can you be a part of this? And I'll never forget the answer I got from one officer in particular. He said, listen, he said, all the things that we hate, right? Corruption and racism and all of the things that are offensive to me and you, I can fight those outside of the CIA or within the CIA. I choose to do it from the inside. And I said, okay, that helped me understand that the true north of what this character, and especially for this particular officer who made me aware of it, was to form a more perfect union. That is the mantra, the value that he lives by, to form a more perfect union. And that's the thing that keeps me coming back to it. I can accept the challenges that people may have with the work, but that's the thing, to form a more perfect union, that I keep foremost in my mind, because that's how I live myself. Being from New Orleans, that's what my parents taught me. That's what my community taught me, that I have within myself to decide what my contribution to the paradigm is going to be. And that's the thing that these officers are always dealing with. What is going to be my contribution to the paradigm?
Mr. Pierce, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate the insight. Thank you so much, and continued success.
Thank you, Wisdom.
Wendell Pierce, whatever the room is, decide what your contribution to it is going to be. 3 men, a director, a doctor, an actor. 3 completely different rooms, and every one of them said the same thing 4 different ways. Malcolm D. Lee called it a business of no. Dr. Ian Smith walked up to a stranger at a gala and asked him to be his intern. Wendell Pierce told me about an officer who said, I can fight it from the inside. And Lisa Ann Walters said the line that I have not been able to shake since. 1 no on the way to a yes. Here's the point. Nobody in this half hour was handed anything. Malcolm had a famous cousin and still wrote something like 6 screenplays before one of them got made. Lisa Ann Walters was not discovered. She was already working, and she finally looked at a job and said, that is mine. I'm getting it. That is the part that people skip over. They see the yes, they never see the count. So if you are standing in the middle of a no right now at this moment, think about this. The no is not the verdict, it is the tuition. Wendell Pierce asked himself what his contribution to the paradigm is going to be. So the question for you, what are you building while you wait? Because the waiting is not the pause, the waiting is the work. That is your moment of wisdom. My thanks to Malcolm D. Lee, Dr. Ian Smith, Wendell Pierce, and to Lisa Ann Walters. I'm Wisdom Martin. Have a great day on purpose.